Okay, everybody set, right? Okay, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Sheriff Ian Parkinson. Joining me today is Assistant District Attorney Eric Dobroff. I'm here today to announce that we have made an arrest in the 2019 homicide of 90-year-old Lawrence Bross of Oceano. The suspect in the case is identified as 41-year-old David James Krause of Grover Beach, whose picture is to my right, your left. This investigation began on January 24th of 2019. Deputies responded to a call of check the welfare on Mr. Bross in the 1400 block of Strand Way. When deputies arrived, they discovered the body of Bross inside the home. This investigation over the past 2 years has been quite extensive. To give you some context, this was the first of 6 homicides that occurred in 2019. That is an unusual number for us. Typically we go from about 0 to 2 homicides, this one was the first of the 6. Krause was identified early on as a person of interest. However, as I have stated many times before, it's not what you believe, it's what you can prove. So the work that was needed was in order to determine whether or not there was evidence linking the suspect to the crime. We had very few witnesses in this case, and the way we solve crimes are really through witnesses and physical evidence. This case involved significant work which resulted in forensic evidence which clearly identified the suspect as being responsible for the crime. This was extremely detailed and extremely time-consuming of an investigation. Krause was already in custody, in our custody here at the jail, for an unrelated charge, and yesterday he was formally arrested for the murder. With the arrest of Krause, this is as I stated, was the one of 6 homicides in 2019. Now all of the homicides that were committed in 2019 have been solved with arrests, and the people or persons responsible are now facing court action. This concludes our investigation. Special thanks to our detectives that worked this case. I know they spent countless hours in order to bring this case to justice, and I am extremely proud of the work that they have done. A special note to the Bross family. We hope that this brings some form of justice to them in a time of grief. Now I'd be happy to take, actually I'm going to turn it over to Assistant DA Eric Dobroff first. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you folks for your interest in this very important case. As described, this was an extensive investigation, and yesterday afternoon the District Attorney's Office filed murder charges against David James Krause for the January 2019 murder of Larry Bross. That incident took place in late January 2019 at the home of Mr. Bross in Oceano at the south end of our county. So the criminal complaint in this case alleges one charge. That charge is murder. It also alleges that during the commission of that murder that Mr. Krause personally used a deadly or dangerous weapon. Additionally, there are 2 enhancements charged. It's alleged that Mr. Krause suffered 2 prior serious felonies under California's 3 strikes law. Those being residential burglaries in the 1st degree, one from 1998, the other more recently from 2016. As stated, Mr. Krause is presently in the custody of the San Luis Obispo County Jail on charges unrelated to this case as well, unrelated to this homicide. It's anticipated, based on court input, that Mr. Krause will be arraigned on Thursday, April 15th, I believe, or 16th, I apologize, Thursday of next week, on the charges in this case. An arraignment is an opportunity or court hearing where an individual defendant is brought before the court and informed of the charges, and they have the ability to enter a plea at that point in time. It's not known if he will. So I suppose at this point in time, I'm happy to entertain any questions as it relates to the charging in this case, if there are any. Mr. Fountain, sir?
What was the deadly weapon?
It's alleged in the complaint as a blunt force instrument. We did not recover a weapon, certainly not at this point, but the injuries sustained by Mr. Bross and other evidence in the case indicate that it was likely a hammer-type instrument.
Relationship between the victim and the suspect?
I can't go into detail at this point in time, but they had met, and they were, my words, not anybody else's, perhaps very loose acquaintances.
Okay, but does that mean that Mr. Cross lived in Oceano near Mr. Bross, or was a guest or a visitor? Or?
They had met. I can give you that. Where Mr. Krause lived at that time is subject to debate.
Well, so is he homeless, or was he homeless, or?
He was living in perhaps a number of different locations at the time. Sorry, I can't be more clear on that.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
You got it. It's the nature of the beast, if you will.
Are you able to elaborate at all on the forensic evidence recovered that tip the scale on this?
I think not with any specificity, just significant scientific forensic evidence was the tipping point in the filing decision. In our opinion, it clearly indicated that Mr. Krause was involved in the incident.
No other individuals that you're looking for that may or may not have been involved?
No, there are not.
Oh, also, the cameras that everyone's got set up in their homes and whatnot, did that help you guys? Did you use surveillance cameras? You know, whatever they call them now, I don't know.
I think
cameras that people have set up in their homes.
Yeah, I understood, like an exterior home surveillance camera, or even interior.
Did that help?
Some of that evidence was parsed through in this investigation, yes.
Sheriff said that he had a couple priors for burglary going back to the 90s. Was Mr. Krause known to the sheriff's office for other incidents over time? Was he known to authorities?
Well, I can't comment on Mr. Krause's criminal history other than those two charges that were alleged in the complaint. And I think by virtue of the more recent one, 2016, we can draw a conclusion that law enforcement was familiar with Mr. Krause prior to this incident.
Are you able to say a motive at this time?
No, I'm not going to discuss those issues. Thank you.
I know there is gradations of 187, right? I mean, in terms of the charges that you file.
Correct.
Are the charges filed against Mr. Krause, are they number 1, 2, 3, or 4 in terms of the punitive measures against it?
Yeah, understood. There's 2 degrees of murder in the state of California, 1st degree and 2nd degree. And as alleged right now in the complaint, it's alleged generically, meaning it's not alleged as either a 1st or 2nd degree, but the evidence bears out that it is a 2nd degree murder at this point. And the reason I say that is with any criminal investigation or prosecution, investigation is ongoing all the way through trial. We don't stop. Anything else?
Well, I was just wondering if the sheriff wanted to take a couple questions.
Yeah, I would, if you will, sir.
I don't know, he was doing such a fine job answering your questions.
He probably has better answers than I. Thank you.
So you guys spent a lot of manpower on this, man hours on it, or sorry, person hours. And what was the key break? Was it a witness that came up, or you know, or?
Well, I'll say this, that I think I said initially that he was identified as somebody of interest early on, but essentially it came down to a combination of witness and physical evidence, which is key to bringing this to conclusion.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that I'm assuming that there's DNA and all that stuff involved, right? We know, based on what Mr. Gilbroth said, that it's some type of instrument, some type of hammer type instrument? It wasn't a gun, right?
Correct. Was not a gun.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Mr. Dobrow did a very good explanation of what we believe.
Okay, do you think the people that live in that neighborhood have anything to worry about or think about, or?
No, this should calm those fears. This was a single person. We have no evidence to suggest anybody else was involved in this, and now he is off the street. Okay, before I conclude, I want to thank our interpreter, Robin, for being here. And so thank you, and thanks for coming.